Now, I think it was, must be 2 days ago, maybe even less, that I was told that Arsenal are slow. Arsenal don't sign strikers. Arsenal drag their heels. We'll spend ages on Sesko, and then we won't sign anyone. It'll be pre-season's only 2 weeks. Why are we not moving on a strike? Oh, it turns out we were the old time. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for an Arsenal transfer show special, in which I am, of course, joined by fantastic guests. And today is no different. And this evening, of course, on Sunday, the 6th of July, I'm joined by the host of the Highbury Squad. It's Sophie. How are you doing? You good? You well?
I'm very well, mate. How are you this fine Sunday? At ease to all the talkies. I don't know why I keep calling them that, but it's never going to work.
Coined this phrase of talkies, the talkies. That's what Sophie calls you lot that are listening right now. You're the talkies.
You know why? It's my dream to have a Squaddies v Talkies 5-a-side.
That'd be a hell of more than 5-a-side. Like 5,000 a side.
Well, you know what I mean.
Would it be one gorilla or 5,000 talkies that would win the battle? Those silly arguments going around social media. That's what happens when the season finishes. No one knows what to talk about anymore. But good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone in the chat box. Thank you so much for joining us as always. Is my mic on? Yeah, yours is too. Why?
Oh, all right.
Why is someone saying it's not?
No, I'm just, I usually have more like, Barry White depth.
Oh, hold on.
I just thought I'd point out, you know, maybe.
Is that better? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Chat box, is that better?
Let them decide.
I don't know. I don't know what I've done, if I've changed it or anything. Of course.
My God, did Tom just freeze or have I frozen? Someone's frozen. Is it me or is it Tom? Maybe it's Tom. Have I frozen or has Tom frozen, chat? If it's me, Tom's frozen. Okay, so Tom's frozen, probably, you know why? Because he's been waiting to say something positive regarding Gyökeres. Sesko versus Gyökeres, Gyökeres versus Sesko, Zubimendi gets announced. I mean, it's quite a Sunday, so his system is having a total meltdown. And he goes on holiday, nothing happens, comes back from holiday. Now he's claiming, by the way, he's totally claiming that he's the reason why all of these signings are happening, that he came back from vacation. So now Arsenal are, dominating in the transfer window. By the way, this has happened on my show where Tom's had to pick up the slack because my system is frozen in time. And usually it's my system that freezes in time. But here we are, totally frozen by Tom. But Arsenal actually delivering, like being at the club, kids. Woo! All those bills just keep on coming. What are all the moaners going to say? That's what I want to know. What are all the moaners going to do after today's Sunday? Squaddy salute from front row. Tom didn't want Gyökeres. Is that true? I don't know if he didn't want Gyökeres.
Is it true? Was that true? I'm on my hotspot. Our whole Wi-Fi has just gone down. This is mad. Oh, this is so annoying.
I tried to, hold it together. I mean,
yeah, no, I appreciate
a little bit of experience in it. Ian,
how quickly did you react? I'm curious. I'll watch
very quickly. Look back, yeah. And I asked right away. I go, is it me who's frozen or is it Tom who's frozen? And then you were frozen in time. But until I got the word from the live chat and I knew it was you, I went into a little bit of hosting mode. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't really get. Yeah, I know. I'm so frustrated. It's like I've spent so long preparing this bloody studio, and the one thing that does seem to have an issue is the Wi-Fi. I'm gonna have to get it like plumbed in, like the Wi-Fi plumbed into this room. I don't know how well I'm coming through right now.
Are you hotspotting off your phone?
I am now. Yeah, I'm going off my phone because my house Wi-Fi is not working. I have to use my phone. That's what's going on. But
that's too funny. Yeah. That's too funny.
I'm gonna get.
You need five. What's that thing? We've got that. What's that fast thing called? The kids that know today. Fiber. Is it fiber? No, fiber. Not fiber.
Yeah, we have fiber. That's what's annoying. We have fiber. Anyway, we've been going for 5 minutes now.
We have and said nothing.
we've said nothing about what's
Nothing.
going on. So those that moan about my long intros are going to get even more frustrated. Yeah, I'm going to get an Ethernet built in. That's what we're going to do. We're going to get people.
Yeah, I got one of those.
We're going to get that done. Right. So, yes, the news today that, of course, dropped and that you would have seen, of course, beyond the fact that we've actually made a signing announcement of Martin Zubimendi. That's just the world of Arsenal these days. You can announce a 60-odd million pound signing and it doesn't matter because Arsenal are trying to sign a striker. That's just the world that we live in today. So, yeah, Sophie, Viktor Gyökeres. Arsenal are, it seems, ditching their attempts to sign Benjamin Šeško and have now moved and advanced ahead with this deal for Gyökeres. What's your initial reaction? And while you do that, I am going to attempt to join my Wi-Fi again. So
okay.
I may disappear for a second, but just run with it. So keep going.
Yeah, no, I was already excited by the Zubimendi signing, which I know we're going to talk about because I loved the announcement. I loved the video. We'll get to that. And then a tweet followed. I know Fabrizio tweeted, but also David Ornstein. And, I adore David. He's been on the show. And I sent him a little text message and said, who said Sundays are boring? And he sent me a little smiley face back. But it's music to our Arsenal fan ears, because I said on the show the other day, it felt like an episode of, for the kids that used to watch Moonlighting, the Generation X's, Maddie and David, they had this is you is or is you ain't. Are they ever going to sleep together? It was this ongoing, the biggest flirtation, I think, in Hollywood history. And it was Gyökeres, it was Šeško. It was like, do you love this guy? Do you love that guy? Gyökeres, the ready-made guy. Šeško, the work in progress. And then seeing and reading and hearing some of the Šeško stuff, which may or may not be true regarding demands and all sorts of stuff. It felt like over the last couple of weeks that Gyökeres really wanted to join Arsenal. Yeah. And I think above and beyond anything, when you look beyond talent, Zubimendi turned down Liverpool, courted by Bayern, tapped maybe by Real Madrid, just wanted to join Arsenal. We want players who want to play for the club. And some people may say, oh, that's just cringy. But it's not. It's true. You want players to feel like they belong. And Gyökeres has chosen Arsenal above and beyond a manager that he used to play for. And look, Tom, I know that we have Champions League football, and that is a big, big selling card to any player in the transfer market. But also comfortability, you would have thought Amorim was that. I'm going to go to the Premier League. I've had my journey, in England before, but to go and be with a familiar manager who knows me, I know how he wants to play. I know the style. And I just wrote down some bits real quick before I swing it back to you. Journey. Yeah. Gyökeres is a footballer who's been on a journey, paid his dues. That journey has taken him to places high and low. And you can say what you want about, the league, and people point to Darwin Núñez. His dominance and his prowess is one of the best in Europe. And I think when it came to how they aggregate top scorers, Mbappe won by the style of which they aggregate, the top scorers in Europe. Maturity, right? He's at that age. He's ready. He's primed. The desire to join the club and to play at the highest level. And he picked Arsenal over a manager he's worked with before. I think these are all really good signs. And to me, we got the right guy in the end. Yeah, I agree. I think that I say I agree. Like, I am of the view that obviously Šeško was the preference of not just the club. He was my preference, And when I say preference, and Arsenal fans, some of you, this is going to be a really hard concept to grasp this, but you can prefer something without meaning that you vehemently hate the other thing. It's a new concept, I know, for many of you, but it is able to like one. It's like, and I've used this, and they know what's coming. The talkies, they know what's coming in this analogy. It's like pancakes or waffles. You can like pancakes. It doesn't mean you have to hate waffles. You can like pancakes just that little bit more than waffles, and vice versa. If Sophie, I don't know which way you land on that. I'm more of a pancake. I like both. Or a waffle person. The Arsenal pancakes, the waffles they do particularly are good on a early kickoff day. Early kickoffs are the best kickoffs for a home game at the Emirates, not because of the football, but because of the press room food. That's the reason I look up. They do, and Chelsea actually also have really good food.
They do
but
have good
we'll
food,
leave that.
Chelsea. Yes, and I hear those lot down the road. I haven't been there yet. Their new ground, but I hear also that they're annoyingly pretty good, supposedly. But yeah,
That's where Tottenham's budget. That's where their budget goes, though, on their craft services.
Yeah, trying to get Kudus for peanuts, it seems. But when it comes to this concept of one over the other, I wanted Sesko, but it doesn't mean I didn't want or don't want Gyökeres. I think I said I was 60-40. That's where I was about at. I was 60-40 on the two. And to be honest, the price was always a big thing. And we've talked about this on the channel a lot. Leipzig have not budged from this ridiculous, like 90 odd million euro price tag they've got. They wanted between 80 and 100 million euros. And I've seen some more reports today. I've not personally been able to confirm that, but the 80 to 100 certainly I'm aware of. But there were some further suggestions that 90 million euros was kind of a figure that they were really holding for. And Arsenal aren't going to be bullied into paying just what that club want. And they don't need to, because unlike with Declan Rice, for example, they have an alternative that they have been following for a long time. And by the way, not just from when Andrea Berta arrived. Yes, his arrival definitely brought with it an increased focus on Gyökeres as well. But I wrote a report back way in, I think it was April of 2024. I included it in the article I put out today, that he was I was told by somebody at the club that, Gyökeres was on a list of a number of forwards that they were considering ahead of that 2024 summer transfer window. They ended up trying to move again for Šeško then, but obviously we all know that didn't come to fruition, and instead they pretty much failed in that summer window overall. They got a couple of good players in Marino and Calafiori, but overall it was not a successful window. This time around though, Sophie, I'll just reel off what Arsenal look like they're doing this summer, and we'll talk about the Madueke stuff as well, of course, too, because I'm really curious as to your thoughts on that, because obviously after the whole Norgard stuff and kind of the setting stalls out on how we feel about signings of that ilk, I'm curious. So we'll come on to that. But so far, 2 deals confirmed. Kepa Arrizabalaga, Martin Zubimendi, both done, confirmed, announced. Christian Norgard is expected, of course, to be announced very soon. I'd imagine maybe next week we probably get an announcement around Norgard. Christian Mosquera, continuation of negotiation between Arsenal and Valencia. He has accepted Arsenal's financial terms and has told Valencia he wants to join Arsenal. So again, a deal that we expect to head in that direction. And then, of course, you've got the forward options. The Ebre Eze, Arsenal again considered to have relatively no issue when it comes to personal terms. The player is very open and willing to join Arsenal. There's this Noni Madueke stuff going on, of course, as well. Player has agreed personal terms with Arsenal, but now it's on the clubs to come to an agreement there. Then there's this Rodrigo stuff bubbling around in the background, not playing, of course, that much Real Madrid. If that is to happen, we're aware that it will probably be a later deal in the window, because he has to finish the Club World Cup, have talks with Real Madrid, decide upon his future. That will probably drag a deal of that kind of profile and, just the extra complications that go alongside it. And now, of course, Viktor Gyökeres as well. Arsenal advancing, and I'll take the words of Fabrizio Romano, but here we go could be coming in the next hours/days, is what he's described it as. So seems we're very much moving in a very positive direction there. So for a club that are quite slow, supposedly, they're doing quite a bit.
What a bunch of bums, eh? what are they doing? I
listed off. I did one of the most in-depth rundowns I've done. And that's what you come back with. What a bunch of bums.
I mean, what are the moaners going to moan about, right? Firstly, let's start the tippy top of the mountain. One of the biggest fears last season for all of us was, oh my God, let's pray nothing happens to David Raya. Yeah. Because we saw what the option was going to be. God forbid he got an injury, right? And by the way, I'd like to preface all of this by saying my nephew Alex is here staying with me, and he's a Tottenham fan, right?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And you listen, he's a very reasonable, rational Tottenham fan. This morning we were talking, he goes,
really? Wow.
What are you guys actually moaning about? What are your fans like moaning about? And he literally rattled off all the issues with his club, right? And I think sometimes we throw our toys out the pram, we're spoiled. Because the way last season went, there was more anxiousness, anxiety towards this window. We knew this window was fundamental. We've been building. We regressed in the league last season for a variety of reasons. You could bring in Kepa for 5 million. Proven Premier League goalkeeper, proven in Europe, had a really good season with Bournemouth, has a little bit of a kamikaze-esque style to him as well. Brilliant. Who can argue with that deal, right? Yeah. Norgard, one of the most reliable midfielders. And I was talking to Natalie Sawyer about this and hoping she's going to be on the show this week just so we can talk about Norgard. Great age, maturity level brings to the midfield, to the team.
The terms great age just brings me Soccer AM flashbacks that are just have come back around again. And anyone that says the phrase great age, it's like, oh God.
This is coming from like, I'm old enough to be your mum.
Yeah. So you remember Soccer AM.
Listen, I was there at the beginning. Helen Chamberlain was my girl from day one. I loved Hell's Bells. So Norgard comes in, reliable, durable, captain, leader. Jorginho, of course, he hasn't won what Jorginho's won, but to have that leadership when you're losing leadership in someone like Jorginho, really important, right? Then Zubimendi's announced. Yes, he hasn't kicked the ball in the Premier League, but we know what he's about. Graham Hunter on our show, bit by bit, broke down why he's going to be a special player at Arsenal. Character-wise, player-wise, the relationship with Mikel Merino. I know he only played 3 months with Martin Odegaard, but they have this chemistry. There's a camaraderie there. He's going to help Zubi settle in Mikel Merino, the Spanish contingent. These are all the intangibles beyond football that are really important for a player and his family to settle at a new club. And then you're talking about Gyökeres. And then the other possibilities, we were talking to Ben Jacobs the other day, and I said to him, the Rodrigo thing, is it real? And he said to us, absolutely, it's real. There's interest from the player and there's interest from the club. So we haven't stopped. This is so far a great July. Andrea Berta combined with Mikel Arteta and the other executives for allowing Berta to do his thing, not getting too involved. Of course, as you know, things are done by committee at the Arsenal. But the Zubimendi deal, credit to those who were involved before Berta came. We should mention that. But then the Norgards of the world, guys, it's so important to have players like that in the team. Again, we were complaining about our bench, complaining about not having like-for-like players with injuries. You could argue we need another 2 or 3 Norgards to really be an ultimate squad. So important. Re-signing Big Gabby, re-signing Miles Lewis-Skelly to new contracts. I don't know if we have too much to complain about at this point, especially if the striker comes through the window this week, Tom.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely spot on. Sorry if I cut out there for a second. I'm raging about this internet stuff.
Put another quarter in the meter,
I
mate.
know. I put 50p in. Don't worry, listeners. I will have it sorted. By the way, speaking of listeners, there's over 1,800 of you currently watching this. Thank you so much to all of you that are listening. Really appreciate it. We've had some incredible numbers on the channel recently, and I know that it's I had some people say, I went on holiday to Canada, came back. Norgard happens, Kepa happens, everything happens, Mosquera happens. I went away a couple of days this weekend to the New Forest, as you know. Come back from holiday, Zubimendi announced, Gyökeres advancing. It's like people are going to be telling me to do one in a bit.
Where are you going next?
Keep going on holiday. Just for the record, my next break is going to be September, I think. So the window would have closed, I'm afraid, before I take during that first international break of the season. So yeah, it seems that good things happen when I jump away and come back. So maybe I need to take a 2-day break again. We'll see if we'll
do a GoFundMe for you, Tom. We'll all have a whip around.
Yeah,
and send you somewhere.
What they're for. Trying to manifest transfers into existence. Nikhil says Fabrizio's just dropped another update on the matter. If he has, it must be on his YouTube channel, I imagine, because it's not on his Twitter page at the moment. But yeah,
tell us what it is, Nikhil.
Yeah, don't tell us that there is an update.
It's a tease.
That's useless.
I mean,
the worst that you could do.
That's totally a tease.
Tell us what it is. That's what you need to do, mate. Tell us what that was. I'll tell you what. It was today, obviously, when this was dropping, and just before, obviously, we saw the initial kind of tweets come out. And to be fair to Sammy Mokbel, obviously, he reported on Thursday, that Arsenal it looked like maybe Arsenal could progress with something regarding the Gyökeres deal. Hence why, when I put the story out, when I managed to get some stuff on my end, I've given the credit towards Sammy, because what brilliant reporting he managed to do on Thursday. I know he's been on your show, of course, as well. But today was like, obviously all this Zubi stuff's going on at 12. And this is dropping literally within kind of the 15, 20 minutes before the Zubimendi announcement, because I was obviously briefed that Zubi was going up at 12. I knew it was going out. So we had an article prepped and ready to go as you do, being in this position. But I was trying to phone people, and I'm like, I know you're going to be really busy with Zubi stuff right now, but this is going down. Can you help me out? So like, it was a chaotic 20 minutes, but yeah, the Zubi stuff's now done. Gyökeres stuff is advanced, which we're good. I didn't get to read out properly the super chat that we got sent in as well, which came from Brandon Enoch, who's also become a brand new member on the channel. So thank you so much, Brandon, for your very kind support. I'm trying to scroll back now to your super chat, because StreamYard, for some reason, gotten rid of it. I'll probably throw it up again later, but thank you to Brandon. I think he said some of the lines on with two of his favorite content creators. I know that sounds like I've made that up, but he genuinely did. Yeah, there we go. My two absolute favorites linking up once again. Big day for Arsenal in regards to transfers. Zubi announced the striker news we've wanted. Really positive stuff. And Jay Collins as well, also joining up as a member of the channel. Thank you to you both. Greatly appreciated. Kind words. Madueke, Soph, what on earth do I have? Should we be thinking, discussing? Sam Dean of The Telegraph reporting that Chelsea are looking for a fee upwards of £50 million for Madueke. Of course, they signed Jamie Gittins for around £55 million. Arsenal, of course, as well, have done business already this window. A lot of money has been spent, and clubs will be aware that Arsenal do have money to spend. We've seen Newcastle move for Elanga for around £55 million as well. We've seen Brian Mbeumo being courted by Man United, but having bids of over £60 million turned down. The Chelsea fans I speak to are saying to me, you can't really expect to not pay much less than 50 million, because if you look at the players that are moving at the moment in that position, that's what they're going for. From a personal point of view, I think 50 million is too much for Madueke, but if he is to move, that's probably what the market price is. I think that's a fair argument by Chelsea fans that are saying that right now. Also, it's English tax, right? Yeah. I know some people hate that terminology, but this is what the market demands. You know, for me, he's a 35 million pound player. I'd agree. But unfortunately, because he's, an English player, they're going to demand more in the marketplace. Can we break this down a little bit sensibly, Tom? Because absolutely not. We're Arsenal fans. We don't do sensible. Come on. Because I get it, right? He's a Chelsea player. But on this occasion, with this particular player, I believe if he played for Brentford or Newcastle or Brighton, Arsenal fans would think it was a reasonable signing, especially as we look at Saka recovering from a hamstring injury / operation, right? Yeah. Arsenal fans have been screaming for so long to make sure we don't burn Saka out. And he came back towards the end of last season. We saw some good. We saw some not so good. He's still recovering. We don't quite know what player he's going to be this season, right? It wasn't too long ago when there were a lot of people in the media and fans claiming that Madueke was better than Saka when he was playing for England. And there was this whole, do you remember the Cole Palmer, Madueke, Anthony Gordon? Oh, are they better than Saka? Stop, right? So for me, I'm looking at this from, yes, he's a Chelsea player, but I'm looking at the player. I'm looking at what he offers, his stats. You know, I don't really like numbers and stuff like that. Yeah. But I think that if you strip away all of the Chelsea crap, and by the way, the Sterling situation is what is leaving the super bad taste in our mouths. Sterling, Willian. I mean, David Luiz, was he really that bad? I don't think so. Kai's turned out good. Jorginho turned out good. Gets a really bad rap from fans. Yeah, he was arguably our best defender of that group at the time that we had him. So and helped bring along some of the younger players at the time too. You know, Holding, to be fair. So I just think it becomes: do Chelsea players moan and complain about signing Brighton talent and a manager? By the way, do they do that?
So
yeah, they do. Yeah,
do they?
I
Okay,
think so.
fine.
Yeah, I think they do.
Well, I'm trying to strip away and say,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you extract all those things and not think, well, we're helping Chelsea, with their
yeah,
PSR and their this and their that. Arsenal don't give a shit about any of that stuff.
mm,
They are going after a player that the manager has identified and profiled, right? It just so happens that he plays for Chelsea. And I think
mm,
we need to look at this from a mature aspect in that he's proven in the Premier League. Another thing Arsenal fans want is Premier League proven players. So let's just kind of like hold the mayo and the mustard and try and
yeah.
look at this from the perspective of who the player is versus where he's coming from.
Yeah, I had a lot of thoughts on this morning. I think this is a deal, if it was to happen, that for me, a lot of other things need to happen as well. I was having a chat with a friend of mine this morning, and I was saying, this window, the problem that we have as Arsenal fans, as a window develops, is all we have is what we're exposed to at that point in time. And in reality, what we really should be doing is not doing shows every single day, not writing articles every single day. We should wait for the window to finish and then have a view of how the window has gone. But the reality is that we don't do that. We can't do that. It's impossible to be in that situation in 2025. Back in the day, you'd learn about transfers through teletext and rarely have any updates about what's going on. Every deal would be a big surprise. That's not the case. It's very rare that we have big surprises in the field of kind of Arsenal transfers. I mean, Norgard happened very quickly. Mosquera, that name emerged pretty much from nowhere. These things do sometimes surprise us, but the reality is that there's a lot of context for me that make the Madueke deal, and I know you said about English tax, obviously he doesn't count as homegrown, but he is an England international, and that just in some ways that does still affect, I know that the homegrown status does add value to players, but even just being an England international will add something to Chelsea's argument when they're having negotiations with Arsenal over a potential deal. But for me, Madueke can really only happen in a number of scenarios. One, I can't be seeing a £50 million plus price tag. I just can't fathom that amount of money, even though that's the current going rate for what looks to be wingers right now. 50 million plus is just, for me, too much. And I'd be concerned, again, with the preface that I don't know what else is coming, that amount of money could impact the chances of signing an Eze or a Rodrigo, as well as Madueke. And that's the other part of this. I'm fine with us signing Madueke if we've landed the striker, the left winger, and the Eze. If we do those three things and also get Madueke, I'm fine with that. But if it's the striker, Eze, and Madueke, or striker, left winger, and Madueke, I've got a bit more of an issue, quite a significant issue.
Tom, is there a possibility that sorry to interrupt, but I'm not. Is there a possibility that, I think what Arsenal fans are afraid, and I agree with everything you've just said, right? Is there a possibility that he is going to be the guy over? Of course, they're versatile. They play different positions and also can play the same. But over a Rodrigo, over an Eze, over. By the way, this cannot involve Waneri in any way, shape, or form. I know you gave me some assurances yesterday, like
of course.
This cannot.
Arsenal are in contract discussions with him, so I'm not thinking that it is
right.
at all.
What about the others then?
In terms of
Eze and Rodrigo, because you mentioned it has to be in addition to, but do you think a chance that they're just thinking about him?
Yeah, there is, absolutely, and this is when I get annoyed at the people who say we shouldn't be signing him categorically, because I think for the right price, he's a really good backup to Saka. Like in the right situation, he's a really good backup to Saka. But in this particular window, where we have got, in my opinion, far greater needs in other areas that I hope aren't compromised by a move for Madueke, they have to happen as well. The other thing I feel is that Madueke coming in, who I look at as, without question, is seen by Arsenal as a Saka deputy. And because of what happened last season with Saka's injury, that incident that cost us 4 months of Saka plus, without a doubt, has affected how they viewed that area of the field. They don't view Waneri as a right winger. They view him as an 8/10. So those that think that Madueke, I get where people's sentiments come from regarding that, but I can tell you that they don't view him as a right winger. He is viewed as an attacking midfield option to play as a left 8, to play as a 10, to play instead of Odegaard or whatever. And what Eze would do is, yes, absolutely add competition and would limit minutes in for other players. But I feel like everyone's somehow forgotten what happened last season. I feel like the whole of last season and the desperation for players, the desperation for depth. Look, I remember the lineup that we went to Brighton with when we'd lost Odegaard and Havertz wasn't there and Saka wasn't there. Waneri started, I think, on the right, scored, but came off injured at half time. I remember that lineup that I remember sitting in the press room at Brighton, looking at that team, thinking, my goodness, we have got a huge summer transfer window. And at that time, January transfer window, which we didn't utilize at all, we've got a huge summer window ahead of us. And yet now we're sitting there going, but what about the minutes for this player? What about the minutes for... Who cares? Like, we need the depth so badly across so much of this to go. If we want these trophies and we want to go 38 games into a Premier League season and we want to be in a better position when we have to go to places like Paris, we hope in a Champions League semi-final, absolutely we need to go and try and find that. By the way, just Hand of Arsenal has just put a tweet out, which is going to cause a little bit more of a stir. Preliminary talks for Noni Madueke, the West London club, floated the idea of involving Max Dowman in any potential deal. The proposal was immediately rejected as Arsenal see him as their crown jewel and reported yesterday the fee is crucial to any deal. So, yeah, I know this is going to spark him going, oh, my God, Max Dowman. Arsenal categorically rejected that proposal. The thing about, obviously, a Hand of Arsenal being very well connected as he is, and he's proven that with his track record in reporting on stories, talking to everybody, you still only hear the little tiny pieces of information. That'll be a conversation. That'll be a suggestion. That'll be a verbal offer. That'll be just part of it that's been discussed, that's leaked out. We only see the top of the iceberg. What's under the surface is still massive. So you can't take everything you see as what is apparently the full picture, because not. Sorry, Sophie, I've talked for a long time.
No. I'm just saying, I know that there are hits and misses for a lot of reporters. One of the things I do like about when Ben comes on and he talks about the business of it all, like the behind the scenes. Sammy talked about it as well. What goes on, the back and forth, the how hard it is to sign one player.
Yeah.
I mean, you only have to look at the Zubimendi deal to see the process, to seeing the video today of him signing with the Arsenal pen saying, I'm a gunner, right?
Yeah.
It is a crazy business. And I think that when you kind of get, of course, Chelsea are going to ask for Dowman. They'd be idiots not to just try.
Yeah,
they're going to ask for Waneri. They're going to ask for Dowman. They're going to ask for all of these things. For me, I think that Arsenal are on a high right now. Like, today feels like a high. The Zubimendi, the Gyökeres news. There's going to be a Madueke signing among, right? It's like the Aaron Ramsdale signing. Do you remember the world fell apart when we signed Aaron Ramsdale?
If we do sign Madueke, I fear for his DMs. I probably already fear for his social media mentions, because Arsenal fans are embarrassing at times. Yeah, for sure.
Before he's even kicked the ball or put on the shirt or whatever. And, your manager who you back and you support and many of you love is saying that he wants this player. Now, has Mikel got it right all the time? Absolutely not. There have been many hits. There have been some misses too. But you've also got, like, this is a North London club, and I like this. I like having a British core in the side. I really do. They know each other, right? Rice, Madueke, Saka, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Waneri. I think those things are important.
Yeah.
But I don't want the sky to fall, because if you walk away having done the business for Gabby and Miles Lewis-Skelly and Gyökeres and Zubimendi and Norgard and Kepa and maybe a Rodrigo and Eze and a Madueke, it's kind of like when, if you're a YouTuber, you'll know this. Someone says something really nice, right? but it's a lot of people say
Did I?
nice things, and there's one comment that is so negative and so bad that you focus on that and you're like, damn it. That's what I don't want this window to turn out to be, because if we're talking about those players and those players are going to come through the door, Tom, it's a sensational window for the club.
Jackson says, why are you guys so sensible? I'm glad to listen to your chat. It's refreshing.
I can say something wacky. Give me a minute.
And she has, and she will again. So don't you worry. Look, I don't understand. I get that people. I get the idea of getting angry about transfers. I get the idea that people don't want Madueke, and I agree with you, Sophie. Like, I think if Madueke was still at PSV and not at Chelsea right now, there would be a very different feel about him.
100%.
And I do think the question is so worth asking to those at Arsenal: why there has been such a consistent transfer link between the two clubs and why we have so consistently bought from them. I think it's a question worth asking them. Maybe I will, but like it's certainly something that I think is worth discussing, investigating, because it is odd to me how often we do it. But I do think that the fact that he plays for Chelsea is without a doubt affecting in some ways how he is viewed as a player. As I said before, for the right price, as long as we do other business that we need to do, I think he's a really good backup to Saka. But the reality is that the £50 million plus asking price that Chelsea supposedly have is just so far beyond.
It's a lot. It's a lot. That would be a stumbling block for a lot of fans. It's funny. I reached out to Jason Cundy, and because I was curious. He does Chelsea TV, watches him week in, week out, and he did. Yeah. He said to me, he divides opinion among Chelsea fans.
Yeah.
But Jason said that he really likes him and he thinks that he's a talented player. Yeah. And, we'll see how it works out in the wash. But if he's divisive for Chelsea fans, I understand how his name coming up is divisive for Arsenal fans too. And again, it's all to do with Chelsea. If it was another club, I think Arsenal fans would be open to this transfer. So, and I don't want it to take away too from today's a really good day. Like the Zubimendi video was brilliant. I mean, whoever came up with that, can we give them a round of applause?
So good.
So good.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody earlier. I got a text from somebody at Arsenal being like, thanks for that appreciation of because they knew I'd put that tweet out I put that tweet out a little while ago. I think it got to a few people, not got to, as in it just reached a few people at Arsenal when I put that tweet out saying they've had a really long time to work on this Zubimendi announcement. I've got high hopes for this. And I got a text from a friend of mine there saying, thanks, by the way, for appreciating, because I did tweet saying this is what I wanted. This is what I was after. So yeah,
it was so good, Tom.
Let me put up on the screen because Sean says, why not Kudus? Instead, obviously, a player that Spurs might be getting for upwards of 50 million. They've already rejected, by the way, a £50 million bid.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's quite a considerable gap, actually, between the two clubs in terms of their asking prices. And I put a cheeky tweet, as I sometimes do, out earlier. Didn't name any names, but I put this tweet out, which is just like, I know who I'd want. And I was just absolutely the most rage baity tweet I've done in a long time. On the left, obviously, is a player with overall much more impressive numbers over the last year. When you look down their kind of record, 0.31 goal, non-penalty goals per 90 compared to 0.17 on the other side. Progressive carries, this player's in the 99th percentile, 6.82, whereas the other is in the 54th with 3.41. The other one, granted, is more successful in the players that he takes on. That's kind of the key stat he rounds out with his pass completion as well. But this is the one on the left. You can see is a much more active, dynamic in terms of the amount of attacking moments that they have and they try for. The numbers across the board, and defensively as well. He kind of, he's a little bit more consistent. And these two players, it's Madueke on the left and it's Kudus on the right. And I didn't put their names on because I just wanted to see what kind of would happen. I think people were surprised, at kind of looking at the difference between those two and the two profiles and what they do. So, by the way, please don't spam the chat. It really doesn't get you any more noticement other than a ban. But yeah, so I've just kind of put this out as a little bit of as a joke, but just to see what people would think.
Tom, you crack me up. Let me tell you something. Don't say I've learned this lesson many a time on a show and also in our WhatsApp exchanges. If you make a comment about a player, just know that Tom's going to come back at you with hardcore facts. And many a time he has silenced me when I come from my passionate Greek perspective. Yeah. The eye test, Tom, the eye test. But it's black and white right here. I like that you did that. I've always felt like Kudus is a good player. I just never felt like he was ever an Arsenal player. Yeah. He feels like a Tottenham player to me, and he'll probably end up at Tottenham. And he's made it clear that that's the club he wants to join, and maybe that's because it's the only club that's come in for him. I never felt like he was an Arsenal player.
I've liked Kudus. I wanted him when he was at Ajax. Like I really thought we may have missed. I think it was unfortunately timed the window when he left, because it was the window we signed Rice and signed Havertz and signed Timber and signed Ray, and we had no money left within the realms of what we could spend with the restrictions that existed to go and get another player. Like, I would have really liked to have got Kudus then. His move to the Premier League has been initially very impressive. Like, the numbers that he put in at first, he had 8 goals, 6 assists in his first Premier League season in 33 games. Very decent return. But he really struggled last season. And I know West Ham had a bad season overall, and that's certainly context to discuss. But he had 5 goals and 3 assists. Madueke, who had far less exposure, nearly 600 minutes less action compared to Kudus, got 7 goals and 3 assists in his showings for, again, I know a Chelsea side that eventually got into the top 4, but again, not a particularly impressive Chelsea team. I feel that Madueke is wasted at Chelsea. I do. I think there's talent there that it can absolutely be harnessed. Again, we're going around in circles a little bit.
A lot of players are wasted there, aren't they?
Of course, yeah. I was gutted when he went there because I thought, we're going to see a waste of talent again. I'm annoyed Gittins has gone there as well because, again, I'm worried there's going to be talent wasted in him as well.
Well, I mean, we've seen this story with them. And can I ask you a question, Tom?
Of course.
Who starts as the number 9, Gyökeres or Havertz?
Well, as in on the first day at Old Trafford.
Okay, not on the end. Maybe not on the first day, Havertz, right?
On the first day, it's probably going to be Havertz, which is going to send the Arsenal fan base into absolute meltdown. It's so obvious Havertz is going to start, unless Gyökeres in pre-season goes mental, because we know that Arteta absolutely will take pre-season into account, as he has done before.
Yeah.
But at this moment in time, my head is like Havertz will start that first game. Yeah. He's a beast, by the way. If you've seen the recent photo of him, he's
yeah. I mean, he's upping his game. He's, here's what I like about what Havertz has done. And it's funny because when I mentioned Havertz and the Chelsea being like actually a good buy, there, someone questioned it. And I'm like, come on, really? Havertz has been a good signing for us. And we missed him last season when he was out. I don't even want to go down that road. But
no, we don't need to. No.
This is a good thing because competition, I feel like our squad got a little complacent last season. The season prior, you could see the Martinelli-Trossard competition like burning in Martinelli's heart when Trossard, went on a bit of a run. You talked on this show too about him being our most clinical finisher. Yeah. You saw the competition at left back. Right?
Yeah.
That was brewing. In midfield, you had a little bit of competition, but really it was the 3 that were, Mikel's desired. Saka's never really had any competition. Martin Odegaard, no competition.
Yeah.
David Raya, no one breathing down his neck to take his starting spot. This team, in order to be consistently consistent, which is our Achilles heel, and I think if we can work on mentality under the spotlight, being consistently consistent, right? And that is player performances, manager in-game management, right? Yeah. and also as a group and as a team. These are the small things that are massive when it comes to success. Liverpool, consistently consistent all season. Manchester City, those sides, consistently consistent. Mental monsters. Liverpool, mentality, kept going, weren't afraid. You know, Arne Slot, first season, fearless. Yes, he inherited a great team, great architecture, 3 or 4 world-class players. But for us, right, we need competition among ourselves in order to compete, Tom, with the big two. We have to have that. Kai Havertz needs to feel like Gyökeres is breathing down his neck. Gyökeres needs to be hungry to just want to bite Kai Havertz's face off and be the number 9 at Arsenal. Martinelli needs to feel the heat again from Trossard, but a new guy coming in needs to light the fire under both of their asses, right? Martin Odegaard needs to feel someone breathing down his neck. Maybe that's Eze.
Yeah.
You know, Mikel Merino isn't just going to lay back and be like, well, now I'm not the number 9. Doesn't mean I'm going to give up, you know, my opportunity to start in midfield. Let's not forget him and that he's part of that midfield as well. Miles Lewis-Skelly, Calafiori, yes, he's injured, but, you know, you've got Timber who can play in that position too. Benjamin White. He's felt it from Timber. You need to have this, Tom, to be a successful team. We got complacent last season, I think, because the team was automatically picking itself. Yes, because we had injuries, but that also was part of like Mikel's consistent, like, these are my guys. No.
Yeah, well, if everyone's fit, Sophie, like at the first game of last season, we knew who the starting 11 was. There was no debate. Really. I mean, the only areas where there could have been debates is potentially left wing with Trossard and Martinelli. For me, still Martinelli would be the main starter and Trossard would come off the bench because he's shown more consistently. He contributes a lot from in the latter stages of games when we've called on him. And then at right back with Ben White and Jurriën Timber. Because at the start of the season, we didn't know what Jurriën Timber was going to give us because he'd missed the whole of last season. Ben White obviously wasn't fit, at the beginning of the season. So we never had the chance to know what that fight would have been like when they're both fully available. But yeah, carry on, because I think you're spot on. I think that we know what that 11 was going to be. We need to be in a position like City and Liverpool, where there's a number of areas where the Liverpool midfield in particular, quite a lot, you don't know who's going to be starting every single game. We need to be in a position. I know Liverpool had the benefit of a lot of, benefit of not really suffering anywhere close to the volume of significant, considerable injuries to key players as we did. But particularly with City, as they've won every single season of 5 of the last 7 or whatever it is, you don't know who it's going to be starting every single week, because it could be anyone.
Right. I mean, how, 1 week it's Eze, Gyökeres, Saka, right? And then you've got, I think Zubi, he's going to need to adapt, right? But I think that if anything, the midfield is going to pick itself, right?
Probably.
Right?
Unless Eze comes in, then maybe you've got something there.
And Odegaard had a poor season last season, but I think we also need to just take a deep breath and know that dude was playing with an injury. He never recovered properly, right? Yeah. And there's someone that was superly overplayed. But if you have an Eze who comes in, I mean, this is the beauty and the teams, Tom, as well. It's like the team generally will pick itself against a Liverpool or a City or a Man United. But there's these teams now, like the Aston Villas that we've struggled against, West Ham dropping points to them, Fulham dropping points to them. We need to be able to mix it up. And the other thing I was going to ask you too is Mikel going to be adaptable tactically, right? The 22-23 season, 23-24, we were sensational. Like, creatively, we were killing teams by halftime. We were playing with speed. The flair players, had all the ammo in the world to just destroy the opponent. Yeah. And then he adopted this. And I said to you, when I was talking to Clive Palmer on the show after Manchester City, when I think that broke us that game, right? Conceding at the very end. But Clive was talking on the show about how maybe that gave Mikel a new idea in terms of how to play from that kind of possession. He's always been possession obsession, but the defensive mindedness, the winning the duels, the battles, right? Which physically has hurt us. But you're going to bring in a Gyökeres, if you're going to bring in Eze, you've got Zubimendi now, the tempo controller, the conductor brings that kind of calmness in midfield. is he going to be adaptable, Tom, to mix it up a little bit? We were very one-dimensional last season.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. And obviously, I think, injuries definitely, as you said, played a huge part in that. But it's also, to this point, we've needed more variation in the options that we've got in attack. Yeah. Havertz always going to start at centre forward. Saka always going to start at right wing. Odegaard always going to start at attacking midfield. Saliba and Gabriel always going to start. At the start of the season, at left back, we didn't really know who was going to start, but not for the right reasons.
Right.
Came Lewis Skelly, and it would have been Calafiori if it wasn't, of course, for injuries, but we didn't really know. Raya always going to start at goalkeeper. And I'm not saying Kepa's coming in and going to dislodge him, but I tell you, he's got a darn sight better chance than what Neto did. Norgard, I think the Premier League experience there, the consistency of his performances, the fact he plays in a transition team in Brentford that love to turn the ball over quickly, and he is the connection between the defence and the attack. He's going to be crucial later on in games, and gradually, you never know, could even build his way into a potential role in the team. It's not beyond realms of possibility. You've got a young potential defender in Mosquera coming in to refine the areas of his game that remain still raw right now. If Eze comes in, if Madueke comes in, if Rodrigo comes in, Gyökeres coming in, I know there are a lot of people that hate on Havertz, but it's not as cut and dry as some people think. I'm here to tell you, it's really not. And the idea that later on in games, because I know that there's this weird expectation of football fans in general. This isn't just a pick of Arsenal fans, and we'll close the show out in a second because I'm conscious of the time. This weird idea that, and the Arsenal Emirates crowd can get like this, is if you're not leading inside the first 15, 20 minutes of a game, it can become quite like you can feel the edge, the anxiousness. Having these options to be able to go into a second half or the last 30, 20, 15 minutes of games and be bringing on, instead of bringing on, with respect to these players, but in the past, Fabio Vieira, Reece Nelson, I'm sure you can name some as well.
Lokonga,
Tavares, these players that we have brought on, even Mikel Merino and this is no slight on him because I think he's a very good midfielder, but using him as an attacking option because we have lacked that extra something, being now able to bring on Havertz potentially for the end of a game, Madueke for the end of a game, Martinelli or Trossard if we've started Rodrigo, bring on Eze or bring on Odegaard if either one of those has started, bring on Waneri into the team for the end of a game. Maybe Max Dowman works his way into the squad and he's something about as well in the team. The idea of being able to, if we are holding out for a game, taking off Odegaard for Norgard and having a midfield of Rice, Zubamendi and Norgard to help see out a game. I mean, I'm well up for seeing that again, 1-0 up at Anfield and you're bringing that as your midfield three to lock it off. This is what I'm talking about. This is the depth, the variation, the options that we have cried for.
Yeah.
So
it's what we've lacked.
What we have absolutely lacked. So I'll end the show by saying this, Soph. Don't judge the window now. Judge the window at two different points. A, when that first Premier League game goes off. And secondly, when it closes. Because I think there is a big deal that could be done between the point of the Premier League starting and the window closing because the opportunities arise at different points and we'll be there if one does emerge. I think in particular, being Rodrigo. So judge it then. I think that we need, if Madueke happens, I hope it happens amongst the other deals. If it is one of the, in inverted quotation marks, deals, and it's 50-odd million plus, I'll have some questions. But that's where I'm at. So closing thoughts from yourself.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too is we have a really versatile squad. If Madueke doesn't come through, you've got Martinelli, who has, I know not a lot of fans like him on the right, deputizing for Saka, but you've got Waneri. You've got, Kai Havertz. Can Kai Havertz play the 10? I mean, some people have talked about him playing the 10. Kai Havertz can play the left 8. I mean, no one really likes him in midfield, but you've got two number 9s now, potentially. Also, I don't want to bring in players like Jesus, but he will come back at some point and contribute to the team. But you feel like you're moving on from that time and that period, right? So I want Arsenal to look forward. I only use the rearview mirror to check my lipstick. But when you've got like this team, you got Martinelli, you got Trossard, you got Gyökeres, you got Havertz, you got Saka, you've got Waneri, you've got Odegaard, Zubimendi, Declan Rice, Mikel Merino, Jurriën Timber, Benjamin White, Saliba, Gabriel, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Calafiori, Zinchenko may go. I would like to keep Kivior. I think he proved himself as a good backup, right?
Great.
You've got Kepa and you've got David Raya, and you've got more potential like coming in, and then coming through, you've got the Daumans of the world as well. This is the squad. We need a squad. We need to keep building on it. And I agree with you. Don't judge the window until September. Then you can go bananas if you want. But for right now, and especially for today, it's been a good day. It's great news. And hopefully the club will keep it coming. And now, Tom, once again, you can say what you want about the owners, and that they're backing Mikel. They're giving him the tools.
Yeah.
His toolbox, come August for that first game, is going to be full, and he is going to be in charge of that toolbox. When he uses the drill, when he uses the hammer, he's going to be the guy, and the pressure will be on him to deliver. Because if we're talking about these players, right? If you give me Rodrigo, I'll just like I love him, right? If you give me Rodrigo, that's it. But it's going to be down to him, to make it work, and he can't complain, because they've given him all the tools.
100%. Couldn't have said it but myself, and I'm really glad that's our closing step. By the way, more than 2,400 of you have been in here at some points this evening, which is brilliant. Thank you so much. We get some good numbers for our AM shows. We do it at the same time every single day. We don't always do shows in the evening. We don't always do shows at this time of day. We don't always do shows with guests. But Sophie's been an absolutely fantastic one for us today, and is absolutely worthy of all the adulation that has been received in the chat box. Sophie, thank you so much for your time. Tell people where they can find you and what you're going to be up to.
Yeah, at Highbury Squad. Go over there, give us a view. We've had some great guests on recently. Good show with Ben Jacobs about Martinelli and Rodrigo and a few other bits and bobs. We've got Kevin Hatchard coming up this week to do a player profile on Zubimendi for us. And some other great guests coming up too, which we'll announce on tomorrow's show. Monday Madness back live at 9:30 in the evening. Tom, thank you for having me.
Of course, absolute pleasure as always. I'll be back with you, of course, tomorrow morning, bright and early, 8 a.m. as usual, UK time, to discuss this Viktor Gyökeres news in more detail. Hear what Martin Zubimendi has got to say about his future. Discuss further the Noni Madueke issues and price and negotiations and all of that lovely stuff as well. It turns out Arsenal aren't so slow in the market when it comes to doing business. I think maybe we've got a few lessons to learn this summer. And I hope it's Man United game. It's hopefully going to be very special indeed. But we've got some pre-season. I mean, tomorrow, players are coming back. Pre-season's here. It's gone very quickly. I need it back. I think you do too. I think we all do. And I can't wait for it. So thank you for listening. Drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Even if you haven't, it does help us out. Drop a like, drop a comment on anything you think you've thought about today that you feel like you need to get off your chest. Tell us. And we'll be back with you very soon. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.